I am so excited that you're here because I'm about to introduce you to literally one of my all-time favorite people. Have you ever had an experience where you meet someone and the second that you meet, you know that they were destined to be in your life, that you're going to know them forever, that your life is going to be better? Well, my friend Ed Millette is that person in my life. I literally believe that the two of us were brother and sister in a different life. I adore him. I cannot wait for you to see this conversation between the two of us. And here's what I want you to get out of this. What I want you to get out of this is not only can you change, but you have within you the ability to change millions of people's lives. And when you hear Ed talk about his background, talk about this concept of one more, the power of one more, you're going to leave this conversation feeling so empowered, so inspired, and more importantly, you're going to have a framework for you to start tapping into the power of one more in order to be happier, more fulfilled, and just create what is beyond your wildest imagination. I can't wait for you to enjoy this. I think that you and I have a quality that you can't fake.
Mm.
And you even talk about it in your book around leadership and around, I think you call it like magnetizing, the power of leadership and magnetizing.
Yeah.
And that is that we're truly in it because we deeply care about people.
Yeah.
And it comes through, like you can tell what's driving somebody. And at the end of the day, for both of us, and I think it's why, even though we're so similar, but we're so different, we also are so in sync because we are both deeply driven to make a difference with just normal people.
That's an absolute fact. That's what I knew about you the second we met. And what was most amazing is that the universe kept us apart and we didn't know each other for such a long length of time. Isn't that bizarre? Like both of us sort of doing some pretty decent stuff out there in the world. We never meet. And then I just feel like we met at the exact right time, that dinner that night with those guys. And then
1,000%.
I knew that night I would know you forever. I knew that.
Yeah. And I knew we'd be friends forever.
Me too.
So here's what I want to ask you, Ed.
Yeah.
What is it like to be Ed Millette?
Bless. I mean, it's a blessing to be me. It's an ongoing journey to, find more out about myself and more out about other people, more about my spirituality and my faith too. Like, I think where you and I really have in common is we're just very intentional about our lives and they matter to us. And so I feel things really deeply, and I think that sometimes doesn't come with the package, maybe when you look at me or something, I don't know, but I hear that often. But I just feel things deeply and I feel things deeply for other people. So I'm a really emotional guy. Yet I think I operate pretty well even when I'm emotional. In other words, it doesn't really dictate my actions all the time. But what it's like to be me is a blessing. Like, I can't believe my life is what it is based on where I come from.
And where do you come from? For people who don't know you, where do you come from?
Well, I come from a loving family, but really dysfunctional. So my dad was I wrote the book for this reason. My dad was an alcoholic until I was 15 years old. Actually, 7 days before my 15th birthday. Only my dad would get sober on 420, but he did. So 420 is my dad's sobriety birthday. But I come from a lot of dysfunction and chaos. And when you're the oldest son with 3 little sisters of an alcoholic dad, you have no self-esteem. You live in chaos. My friends wouldn't, Mel, I was thinking about this the other day. My friends we never had friends over the house. Why? Because the whole street could hear my dad yelling all the time. They're afraid of him. And I used to get this anxiety. Even when we would do something cool as a family, we never went on a vacation my entire life, ever once. But if we did, never one time. But if we did, that's probably why I love to travel and dream, because we just didn't do that stuff. But I remember times like every day was anxiety, but man, especially if like we were going to go out to a restaurant, like a big night out for my family was like Sizzler, this little steak place where you go and wait in the line and order your steak. But to us, that was like, wow, my lets are balling tonight, But I remember going out and getting such anxiety hours before because I knew my dad was going to get in a fight at the restaurant.
Oh my God.
He was going to show up drunk, and it was either a server or some other person in the restaurant. And it just happens. The Sizzler had a private room for their staff, Mel, I swear to you. And we ate in there every week. I thought, wow, this is unbelievable. When we go out, they give us this private room every time. They're hiding my dad from everybody else in the restaurant. And I didn't realize that until we got older. So that's what it's like to be me. So you come from that and you're like, wow. And now, there's a few people that like to listen to me, and I've helped a few people. It's sort of mind blowing to me.
What was the pivot in your life? Because you were crazy successful in business and as an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
But what was the pivot for you for when you were like, I want to, you're still obviously crazy successful as an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
but you made this change and you started teaching.
Yeah.
And you started sharing wisdom. Do you know kind of the moment when there was this like epiphany for you? Because it feels to me almost like more spiritual than it was a business decision.
Way more spiritual. And it was right before Wayne Dyer passed away. I've been really blessed. I've had a couple really, unbelievable mentors in my life. And I met Wayne Dyer when I was very young. Most of your audience would know who Wayne Dyer is, but if they don't, they should Google him. He's one of the great all-time beautiful soul thought leaders ever. And so two guys kind of ganged up on me. One's funny, one's not. Wayne told me, he goes, hey, listen, you've always watched you when you're one-on-one with people and you care so deeply and you're so present with people and you spend so much time with them. Ed, you need to take what you know out to the world about the mind and spirituality and how to change your life because you've done this. And I'm like, Wayne, no one wants to listen to me. I'm just an entrepreneur. He goes, no, God gave you this deep voice and this ability. And Wayne had that voice too. And it would deepen. It would deepen when we would talk. And he goes, no, I'm telling you that. And I said, Wayne, all my life, I've wanted to help people like people helped my dad get sober, like my mentors, like you. And Wayne said, I believe you'll change the world. And Ed, you won't change the world because you're brilliant or you're talented. You'll change the world because of your intentions. And he got me. And I went, because I don't believe I'm brilliant and I don't believe I'm talented. That's a lot of work for me to believe. But I do know my intentions. I do know my intentions. And my intent is to definitely serve and help people. I love people because people saved my family.
Tell us that story. Tell everybody that story about how people saved your family.
Well, I wrote this whole book because of the one mores in my life. But when I was, Mel, I'm going to give you, this is just for me and you, everyone else can hear it because I haven't talked about this ever before, but it just happened 2 weeks ago with Christiana. So the story is my dad was an alcoholic and I'm almost 15 and I'm driving in my car and my dad's crying. My dad's driving his car and he's crying. I never saw my dad cry before that day or after it. And he finally pulls over and he's still crying, but he doesn't look at me. And he just says, he's looking straight ahead at the wheel. He goes, I'm going to try to go get sober. And I'll never forget this one more time. And he goes, Eddie, I'm going to give it one more try. And I have a chapter in the book called One More Try. I get emotional telling you this because it altered my life. And I said, Daddy, what would be any different this time? He tried a lot of times. And he said, Eddie, I'm going to lose my family. Your mom's taking you and your sisters. And the truth is you deserve a dad you can be proud of. I vividly remember this. Now he's looking at me and he says, your mom deserves a husband she can respect. So I'm going to try it one more time. And then he came back and he was sober. And I said, Dad, these themes of one more start coming out. I said, Dad, are you never going to drink again? He goes, I don't know. I'm just not going to drink for one more day. That lasted for 35 years. And my dad, I believe humans can change. Mel, you asked the spiritual thing. I believe so deeply human beings can change because I watched my hero do it. My dad lived like crap the first 15 years of my life and then lived the best life of anyone I've ever known personally the next 35. So I watched it, right? And I watched what he did. But the most amazing thing, Mel, I got to tell you, this is not in the book. It happened 3 weeks ago. Most people think they're disqualified from helping other people. Like, yeah, Mel Robbins, she's brilliant, legal mind, personal development mind, business mind. She's a powerhouse. She can change people's lives. Mylette, yeah, he lifts a lot of weights. He's got that deep voice. He seems to have a little swagger about him. Probably he could. He's made hundreds of millions, whatever. Me, no way. Because you know what? You don't know what I'm ashamed of. You don't know my failures. I've had a divorce, a bankruptcy. I had a business that didn't work. I've done things I'm just completely embarrassed by. Or, hey, I've just never done anything great before. And they say, this disqualifies me. Nothing could be further than the truth. Your life experience, your humanity is actually what qualifies you. Check this out, Mel. I wake up like 3 weeks ago on a Wednesday crying, and I don't cry enough. I said, babe, wake up, wake up. She goes, what? I said, I'm 51 years old. This just dawned on me. Someone helped Daddy She went, what, honey? I said, someone help daddy in the lowest moment of his life, the darkest moment, on his knee, losing his family, losing his life, maybe physically losing his life, literally. Some precious soul intervened in a dark bar or alley, or I don't know where it was, a meeting, a coffee shop, and said, I'll help you. I'll help you. And they changed my life. I'm talking to you, Mel, because of this person. They changed my children's lives who weren't even born. They've changed millions of people's lives that I reach. In that one moment, this human being and their humanity stepped forward and saved my family. And that's incredible to think one person can have that ripple effect. But the more incredible effect is what qualified them to do it. The things they were the most ashamed of. They were also a drug addict and an alcoholic. Little did they know the world was preparing them when they're driving drunk and lying to their family and cheating on someone and stealing money for drugs. Was preparing them for this to qualify them to help my dad. So the very things in life we think disqualify us from making change in other people's lives are the very things that do qualify us. It's our humanity. It's our frailties. It's our vulnerability that allows us to connect. If this person wasn't a drunk or a drug addict, they could never have helped my father. So this is amazing how God, if you believe that, of a universe orchestrates these things. The only difference was this person in this critical moment had the courage to step forward and say, I'll help you. And they probably felt unqualified. But the truth is their whole life was preparing them to help my dad. And here we are today. And so this is what everyone needs to get out of this. There's a power to doing one more. This isn't even in the book. This is after the book was written. I went, my gosh, this thing we think disqualifies us is the very thing that does qualify us. And so I wanted to share that with you. That's
I'm
a
just
long
rocking,
answer.
like there's a lot there to unpack. I remember I just naturally started rocking. When I was a trial lawyer, you always knew a jury was going to convict when they started rocking. You know, they like agree with you. Like, so as you're talking, I'm like, yes, 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 yes. And it's so true because you're right. How many times have you disqualified yourself or stepped on the brake or held yourself back or talked yourself out of it because you didn't think that your life experience or just you being there was enough? And if that's the one thing that people get out of your book, that the power of one more, that would change the world. But that's not the only thing that they're going to get out of this. And I think, Ed, you are going to start to see this idea of one more and the power of one more person, or the power of one person showing up over and over and over and over and over again, because you've taken a highlighter and highlighted something that is true about life, that it takes one to impact millions. Let's talk about this book. Why this book and why now?
Well, I was with my dad when he passed away. I was holding his hand. And there's all these lessons, Mel, in my life. But this is a heavy book, by the way. We're being really emotional right now, which there's a lot of that in the book. But the truth is you've read it, so you know. It's a very heavy content book on stuff you and I love, the reticular active.
Well, can I just say something else? Because some people hear the word heavy and they're like, I'm out.
Right.
That's not what he's saying. He is saying that in every single chapter and every single page, there is a takeaway. Yeah. There is an insight. So it is thick with life-changing tools and stories. That's what he means by heavy. That's
what I mean. Thank you. That's why you're here, to clear up my mistakes. So
that is not a fucking mistake. Will you shut up?
You know what I mean.
See, you don't think you're smart.
Well, I know I'm not really smart, but what I am is the thing. What I am is the things in the book. I would like to think that some of my, we just did it, Mel. There's 4 people in my house. You met Christiana, and I've got 2 kids. Yeah, I think you met at least one of them when you were at the house. I think you met my daughter. Yep. But I'm 4th in the house in IQ, and that's okay with me, because I think it gives people hope to know, hey, look, this is an average, ordinary man who's produced some pretty extraordinary stuff in his life. And I did it with the stuff that's in the book. But one of the things that's in the book, that why the book was, I was with my dad and he passed. And I think you realize the power of one more in its absence, like when there isn't another one. And so.
Okay, stop.
Yep.
Stop.
Okay.
Okay, stop. You realize the power of one more when there isn't one.
Yeah. It's a fact. I this is hard for me to say. I haven't said this out loud ever, I don't think, but my favorite human being to be with was my dad. I mean, obviously that doesn't count my wife and kids, right? And so my favorite thing to do is to golf with my dad. And it wasn't because we're any good, because neither one of us are great, but it was 5 hours with my best friend right next to me, my hero, up close in a golf cart. And we would talk deep. My dad and I didn't have casual talks. We disagreed on politics and faith and all kinds of stuff. And we would have deep conversations. And do you know what I would give, Mel? Honestly, what I would give to watch my dad walk off the green one more time, go, hey, Dad, great putt. Just put his arm. That was a good one, wasn't it, Eddie? You know, and they say, hey, let me tell you how your sister's doing. You know, do me a favor, call your sister, you know, and we would just talk about family. My dad was a simple guy, Mel. I've had 5 jets. You know that I've been blessed to own some jets. My jet was parked within walking distance. My dad was a runner. My dad could run to my jet, see it. Never been on it. My dad never went on one of my jets, never set foot on one of them. And I would say, Dad, let's go to Maui. Let's play some golf. He'd go, why in the world would I go all the way to Maui to play golf with my favorite man? I could just play here in Chino. It's not the golf. It's with my son. I don't need to go do that. I just want to be with you. But when he died, I just have to tell you, Mel, do you know what I would give for one more round of golf with my dad? You need to begin to think about this if you're listening to this. What if I said to you, you and your sweetheart, whoever they are, you got one more dance with them. It's the last one.
Well, I'd hang up with you and I'd go down and dance with Chris right now. That's what I know
you would. I know you would.
Yeah. And you know what I think about a lot is I think about the fact that my dad is 76 and his dad died when he was 82. And so if I'm lucky, I've got my dad for maybe 10 more years. He lives in Michigan. I'm here. I see him maybe 4 times a year. That means if I'm lucky, that's what I got.
Yep.
But that's probably not what I have.
It's probably less, right? And the truth is, what if I said to you, if you walked in and saw your children tonight, that you get to tell them you love them one more time? What if it was the last conversation? What if you started to approach your life as if there was only one more? Just to start to think about that for a second. And for me, it's altered me. I mean, it's really changed me. I'm more present with people. I would do anything to get that back and to have more time with them. The other thing that occurred, I was like, I'm next. Napoleon Hill says in Think and Grow Rich, begin with the end in mind. But why don't we do that with our lives? You know, what do we want the end of our life to look like? I held my father's hand as he took his last breath. I know what the end of his life. What
was that experience like for you?
It was beautiful. And I'll tell you why. When my dad got cancer, my dad died of cancer ultimately, but when he got cancer, Mel, my dad said to me, he goes, look, because my dad was a dude, you know, he's like, hey, I'm going to fight this SHIT one time, but I'm not having you guys carry me the next 5-6 years and be a burden to the family. And I'm going to get all shrunk up and lose my hair.
He sounds like my mother, who's like, you're not going to wipe my ass.
That's my dad. That's actually exact terminology, right? Yeah. But here's the truth. Other than the wiping the ass, that's exactly what he did. And he went 8 years. Chemo, radiation, surgery, proton, chemo, surgery, proton, new chemo, radiation. 8 years, and it was destroying him. And I would say to my dad halfway through, I'd say, Dad, why are you doing this? And he goes, well, maybe I'll get to one more of my granddaughter's wedding. These one mores would come. He'd go, Eddie, maybe I get to one more Christmas recital for little Juliana. Maybe I'll watch my grandson, little Jacob, play one more football game. And he used to tell me, he goes, Eddie, when you're threatened with these one mores never happening again, you fight your ass for one more. And then he would tell me when I was a little boy, Christian, you've been to my house. I live on this beach. Well, my wife and I, we used to come on this beach, walk down this beach, Mel, come down here all the time. And I'd say, babe, I'm going to get us one of these beach houses someday. I'm going to live up there. I literally live on the exact beach now. And she's like, you are? And I'm like, yeah, we're going to get one of these. Don't worry about it. I got it. And I'd go home. I'd say, Dad, who are these people that live in these oceanfront houses? Right. And my dad go, I have no idea who these people. I've never met one of them. I have no clue who they are. They're probably from another planet. I got no idea. And I figured out, Mel, over time that I know who they are. They're the one. The second chapter of the book's called The Matrix. And the reason it's The Matrix is about the RAS, but also in The Matrix, Neo, they call him the one. See, when you see a really happy family or a successful family or both, if you go all the way back in their lineage, at one point they weren't. They weren't.
It's true.
And then the one shows up. the one arises in that family and stands up and goes, the world's not treating my family like this anymore. The Milettes are rising up. We think different. We operate different in the world. And the one changes that family forever. And it's typically a lot closer than you think. My dad did say this to me. He'd go, Eddie, and this is the whole premise of the book. He'd go, I don't know about that beach house stuff, how you get there, but here's what I do know. It's closer to you than you think it is. And he goes, Eddie, please don't spend your life thinking that's 100 years away. Because if you think like that, you will act in accordance with that belief and you will perpetually keep your dreams that far away from you. And he said, I think it's one decision away, one relationship away, one meeting away, one thought, one emotion away. You can change your life. And he goes, look at me. That one decision to get sober completely changed my life.
So
and I've
true.
always believed this, Mel, because I believed it. It's been true. I'm one decision away. I'm one meeting away. I'm one this away. I'm one relationship away. And I'm a stacking of those one mores in my life. The truth is, the difference between winning and losing in life is sometimes so small, it's almost too scary to talk about. And it's one new thought like, hey, I'm going to give myself a high five every morning. That one new thought can change your life. It's one decision. It's one dinner I walk into and I meet Mel Robbins at a dinner table with some other folks that I know. That changed my life. My life got better in that instance. And so if you begin to believe this, then the question becomes, how do we find these one mores? What are the things we need to know in our mind to get them? What are the things we need?
What are they? Like, because I'm like, yeah. Like, what are they?
Well, there's a lot and they're in the book, but one of them, for example, is the RAS, which is the filter that sort of reveals what's most important to you in your life. And so you know exactly how it works, but for the benefit of everybody else, it keeps you sane. It's why you don't feel the blood rushing through your right ear right now. It's why when you walk in a crowded room and there's all this noise, but someone says, Mel, not even loud, you can hear auditorily over all the noise what's important to you, which is your own name. It's like for me right now, I just bought a Tesla. I don't know if Musk is buying Twitter or not.
You bought a Tesla? I don't see
I
that.
did it. I did it because I like this dude's just disturbing stuff. I have no idea whether he's a good guy or not. This guy's just rocking out a little bit. I'm like, give me all
So
these
which Tesla did you buy?
I bought the Plaid. I bought the good one.
What's that? I don't even know what that is.
I didn't
Because my
either.
daughter was just, I was bitching about the fact that I now have to drive back and forth between Vermont and Boston.
Yeah, get a
as
Tesla.
if it's a problem. And she's
Yeah.
like, why don't you get a Tesla and let the car drive you? And I was like,
I like it. And I'm going to tell you the other thing I like.
is this the thing with the wings?
I don't know. No, well, the doors open that way, but what it does do is that you can hit the mode and it'll drive for you. But I don't trust it. But what I do have that I like is I have this mode on the car that it'll not let you hit a car, even when you're driving. So like if you're stupid and you're not going to brake, it brakes. If you're drifted into the wrong lane, which I do all the time, it goes.
I'm not surprised by that, by the way.
I know. And
I can't wait for the call that you're going to have where you call me and you're like, Mel, you know that boat I bought in Miami? I just ran it up on some rocks in Maine.
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. That's actually way more likely than you might think.
I know.
It's extremely possible. If you, oh my gosh, you saw me drive a boat. You see me drive. Well, I'm not going to comment. It's probably possible. I need the Tesla thing on the boat is what I need. But I bought this Tesla, right? It's crazy. It's driving my wife nuts. I'm like, babe, red Tesla, white Tesla. There's another white Tesla. 3 lanes over the other side of the freeway, going the other direction. I go, honey, there's a black Tesla. She's like, what is wrong with you? And
It's the RAS.
It's the RAS. I said, these Teslas were always there. But
Our daughter, dude, this just happened to us. I'll give you a different car that is not a Tesla. So a used Subaru Crosstrek, a Toyota RAV4, our daughter's shopping for her first car. And now she's like, everybody drives one of these things. I'm like, no, they don't. They're just there. Yes.
It looks like it, right? And that's because it's part of my RAS. Here's how life works. You already know this. If you can program your matrix, your RAS, that the Teslas of your life become these meetings, these decisions, these people, these relationships, these thoughts, these emotions, you got it. And what I'm here to tell you is that these things have always been around you, but you're oblivious to them because what's in your RAS are your fears, your anxieties, your worries, your to-do list, your problems, what's right in front of you, you see. And so you validate it and prove it to be true.
So do you have an exercise that you recommend for people that are so mired?
Yes.
In the negative, like it's not going to work out. This is going to be awful. It never worked. Like, what is an exercise that you would tell somebody to do so that they can start to reprogram that way of thinking?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in daydreaming, lucid daydreams. And so
what does lucid daydreams mean?
Yeah, what lucid daydreams means very clear, very specific, and repetitive. The big one is repetitive. So here's what you already do. Your mind moves towards what it's most familiar with. We all know this, or maybe most people don't know this, but it moves towards what it's most familiar with.
Okay.
And I have a chapter in the book where I say, become an impossibility thinker and a possibility achiever. So I'm going to combine two things and I'll give you the technique.
Okay.
99% of the people in the world operate out of a frame of reference, a pattern of thinking that is history and memory. 1% of the people operate out of imagination and vision. This is a different frame of reference. That's why my friends, it's very difficult when I'm around most of my friends to go, remember when? You guys remember that? My friends almost never do that. If you surround yourself with people where you're reminiscing most of the time, not only do you operate out of memory and history, but you're reinforcing it with the conversations you have with people. When you and I are talking, we were flying back with Jamie Kern-Lima. There was no reminiscing. We're talking about the future and we're operating in the present. This is a different pattern of thinking, and it must be worked on. And so why are we happier when we're kids? I have two philosophies. One, I think you were just more recently with God. And two, you operate out of imagination because you have no history and memory. But by the time you're about 10 years old, you begin to slowly operate out of history and memory, oftentimes the history and memory of the emotions of your parents. Did you guys lose me?
No, I'm
lost
thinking
me.
because this is super, super helpful to me right now. And it's super helpful to me right now because Chris and I just sold our family home where we raised our kids for 24 years. And I've lived there almost half my life. My parents have never sold the house I grew up in. My grandfather was born on the family farm that my mother was. This has never been modeled for me.
Wow.
And so I was not prepared for the avalanche of grief and panic and uncertainty that happened when all of a sudden in 24 hours the house sold. And I have spent the last 3 weeks in an up and down emotional breakdown around, like, literally, when you said reminiscing, something snapped for me, Ed. Good. Because I was like, oh, shoot, I am wallowing in the memory. And that is now becoming this loop, like cyclone of sadness and regret, and maybe we shouldn't have sold it, and maybe this was too soon, and maybe we weren't ready, that has blocked my ability at times the last 2 weeks to even remember why we were all so excited and now is the time. And so it's the reflecting back and then allowing myself to stay there that has made the kind of grief that's normal with a transition that big really weigh me down. And so you just broke something open.
Good.
And gave me, I think, the keys to really connect back into what you and I both do so well, which is staying inside the imagining of where is this going and why are we doing this and what's possible? Because as we both know, the brain also can only imagine what you're losing. It can't actually imagine something beyond your wildest possibilities. And so I got to get back the fuck into the imagination piece of this versus the memory and reminiscing and all that stuff.
Yes. And I love that helped you. And what we do when we're reminiscing or we're going down that pattern is we're flashing in our mind pictures and videos of other times. We actually see them and it creates this emotion in us. And so this is not complicated. The most successful people are the people in life that can get very clear in their vision and their imagination repetitively. Like when I work with top athletes, Mel, one of the things that, and by the way, there's really simple visualizations in the book that you just do very simply and you do it repetitively. And then I teach you, like, slow it down. Now speed it up. All it's doing is forcing you to focus on it. Add color to it. Make it black and white. It's very easy and it'll change your life. But when I work with pro athletes, I'll give you an example. I work with a fighter who won last weekend in the UFC. And what he does when things get really fast, when he gets hit in fights, he speeds things up and awfully goes into brawl mode. And what happens is it's when he's lost a couple fights. He had lost his last 2 fights. And I have a chapter in the book called Equanimity, one more level of equanimity. When you were visualizing in your RES, things will begin to slow down like in the Matrix and bullet time. And in this particular fight, Mel, what was incredible is he was getting hit and he started to speed up and you watch him consciously. I'm ringing in his ears. He steps back and he slows down and finds that equanimity. And he ended up knocking this guy out with a leg kick, Mel, that knocked the man out. I don't like this stuff, for 4 minutes out on the mat. It's one of the most devastating knockouts in the history of fighting. And afterwards he gets interviewed and he goes, I don't know what happened. I've never practiced that leg kick before in person, only in my visions and imagination. And he executed it to save his career, to win the fight. And so this is something you can do over and over again. One more thing on this visualization. We think we visualize well, but the more we practice it, it's a muscle. So when I work with like a B-level baseball player, I'll say, hey, let's visualize the pitch coming in. They'll go, I got it. I saw it. I said, where'd you hit it? They go, up the middle. I go, okay, good. Where's the camera? They go, huh? I go, where's the camera? Is it over the center field camera shooting over the pitcher like you watched it on television? Or is it from the batter's box and you're watching the view out? Inevitably, average players will go, I don't know. And I go, then you weren't really visualizing. Let's find the camera. They go, okay, it's from the batter's box. I go, great. Can you see the rotation on the ball? Is the pitcher left or right-handed? Can you see the stitches on the ball as it comes in? And I make them start to see it more clearly. And then I'll say, can you see the ball hitting the bat? No. Well, let's work on that. Have the bat hit the ball. Do you see the stitches now rotating the other way back out? My point is that I'm getting them to visualize with specificity. But when I work with an all-star player, they do this naturally. The difference in their athletic ability is their ability to repetitively, specifically visualize. And this is not complicated stuff. I even know when I say it, you already do it. Some of you with your fears and your worries, you're really good at this. You can visualize it with clarity and you can make it bigger and bolder. You can change it to black and white to make you really sad about it. You can slow it down. You can add sounds. So you already do this well.
How do you interrupt that? So if you are in that negative visibility loop, right, where I immediately, my visualization was, oh my God, we just sold the container that has held our family together for 24 years. Now that that's gone, I'm never going to see my kids.
Yep. Yeah.
How do you interrupt?
You interrupt. You know what it is. It's a pattern interrupt. It's a pattern interrupt. Okay. And so I have this on how to create habits in the book. I teach you actually how to create a habit. It's a pattern interrupt. And so we'll just be real here. For me, it's usually a physical move. I'll move myself. I'll snap my fingers. I'll do a jumping. You may think this is nuts. For me, a physical move will snap me out of a thought pattern. That's for me. For some people, it's an auditory thing. And this is so funny. I have someone that I coach right now, and I sneezed on one of our first calls. And this person goes into negative thought loops, Mel, like you can't believe. Most people say, God bless you, right? Or excuse you or whatever. This person was old school, except she's young, and she goes, Gesundheit. And I go, what the fuck did you say? She goes, Gesundheit. I go, I haven't heard that since my grandfather in like 1977. And so with her, we laughed about it. It was a belly laugh. That word then became a trigger for laughter. And so her way out of her negative thought patterns, this sounds so stupid. She goes, Gesundheit, Gesundheit. And she throws her arms back and we make a laugh out of it. And what happens is it doesn't put her into the good loop. It interrupts the negative one.
Right.
It's an auditory, funny one. For a lot of people, it's a physical move. It's a snap of the fingers. It's a grab of the ear. And this is not complicated stuff. You ever watch an athlete, when they get into the batter's box, a baseball player, they'll tap the plate 2 times, adjust their batting gloves. Tom Brady gets over the center. Let's fucking go. Peyton Manning used to say, Omaha. These were plays, but they were also triggers.
And they were cues.
They were
right?
cues. Yes. And so it could be a physical, you and I both, by the way,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom. The 5-second rule is a pattern interrupter. Yep.
You got it. So that's the best one, but that's
well,
what
I don't use that crap that I, teach.
Stop it.
No, I'm just kidding. Well, when I am in a death spiral, I'm wallowing.
And sometimes it's a physical move for me.
Yeah, I think a physical move's a good one. A snap of the fingers. I like that a lot.
Okay, there you go.
I like that a lot. That's good.
Thank you.
What do people not know about you?
A weird thing about me is I danced in college. And
wait. Hold, but what does that mean? You danced in
wasn't
college?
a Chippendale, but I danced in college. So I danced at a hip hop club in college to put myself through college in addition to my baseball scholarship. And then I toured for like 2 years with a bunch of different hip hop bands. So you would not know that with a 51-year-old middle-aged.
What?
Yeah. So you don't know that one. No one knows that one.
I've never seen you dance.
And you're
a big dude. Were you that big in college?
Yeah, I was way bigger in college. And my daughter will tell you, you probably never should see me dance because I'm stuck in 1994. So when we go to weddings, she's like, Dad, just so you know, the Running Man, the Running Man, the sprinkler, the Roger Rabbit. It's
Oh my
just
God.
not there
Oh my
anymore. And I'm like,
God.
well, I'm
Cannot
bringing this
wait to
shit back,
see
Bella. So enjoy
Ed
the
turn
wedding.
it up the next
Yeah,
time we are doing it. That's
let's
amazing.
go. I've seen you
I,
dance more. So, but and a serious thing that you probably not know about me is that I still struggle with the things that are in my book. And I wrote it mainly for me, that I use these tools because self-esteem doesn't come easy to me. I'm speaking today in Arizona. I kind of already know what'll happen about 6 o'clock tonight when I get back to my room. I'll go into Ed Milet mode, which is, I should have said this. I can't believe I missed that. Oh my God. I still struggle with these things. And you know that about me too, but I'm a work in progress. And I have bought into the theory I said earlier that my things that aren't perfect about me, that I could easily conceal or be ashamed of or embarrassed by, are the very things that qualify me to help you. And I also think that's probably my favorite thing about you. We are both two of the most tool-driven, really use the stuff to produce results people on the freaking planet. And our content, I'm just gonna say it, it's better than everybody's damn content. We got great content, right? Yet, because it's real. Yet, we both had success outside of this space, which qualifies us differently as well. Yet, we'll both tell you at any given time, I've had 3 weeks of a spiral that you can't even believe that you just shared. Or, hey, tonight after my talk, and I hope that people look at you and I, and that we're aspirational, not just inspirational, meaning that I aspire to be more like this person with my vulnerability. They're not perfect. I think most things in life, I say this in the book about being a parent, are caught, not taught. Catch it. And I hope people catch things from you and I. I'd say this last to you, Mel, that I had just something about life that I think is worth saying. Really good friend of mine called me. I've known her 30 years. I love her. And she called me the other day and she's like, she got a preview of my book. She's like, I'm crying because I knew you at that age and it's so true. And I can't believe what's happened in your life. And she goes, you just came from such a neglected environment. And so did I. My mom and dad got divorced. And she said, well, I'm so glad both of us aren't neglecting our children. This was the hardest thing I've ever said to a friend. And I said, I won't say her name. I said, sweetheart, she's a dear, dear friend of mine, like a sister. And I said, you know, I love you. And she said, I do. I said, you might want to look into whether you're neglecting your kids. And she says, what in the world does that mean? And I said, well, there's lots of neglect in life. There is drug addiction or alcoholism. There's abuse. There's divorce. Maybe they didn't say they love you enough. I said, the most insidious form, though, is a child being raised by a parent who's unwilling to pursue their potential, who's unwilling to chase their dreams. That's neglect. You're installing in that child that it's okay to settle, that it's okay to be less than you're capable of. That's neglect. It's insidious and it's dangerous and it's terrible. And I think the last 10 or 15 years, you slid into doing that and you need to change it. She went, oh my gosh. And she said, you're right. And she made a change. And I said, why am I telling you this? I said, because I think all great change in life comes from love. My dad got sober because he loved his family so much, not because he didn't want to drink alcohol anymore, didn't want drugs in his system. It came from love.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And I know you love those children of yours and the grandchildren you're going to have. And it's time you start having them catch things from you, not just things you teach. It's caught, not taught. So
that is just beautiful. All change comes from love.
It does.
Wow. I just got the kind of like feels that feel like a hot flash, like my armpits just got really hot. That's when you know Ed is like speaking the truth. You know, and what I also love about that is that I think that that's really why you're one of my all-time favorite people on the planet. Seriously, my team will tell you, I just freaking rave about you. Your name comes up, and Jesse, who used to run all video production for the Baltimore Ravens, is like, yep.
Oh, hi.
Yep. She's like, yep. The second Ed's name came up. Suddenly Mel's in a good mode. Like,
that makes me feel great.
And just, you are, and we don't even, like, we know each other at our core and at the deepest levels, but we don't even know each other because we didn't grow up together. We don't live near each other. We see each other a handful of times a year at mostly professional crap. And yet that is your core. You are literally you come from a place of love.
Thank you.
Always.
So do you. So do you. And I love you. And it is interesting to have such depth of affection for somebody that I've had so little time with. Yet when I'm with you, we find our way to each other in these groups too. We end up being together somehow.
Yeah. And you know what else I love is that it's, I think our spouses are so like, those two like are brother and sister from a different life. Like there's not that weird energy that can happen between men and women. It is just pure on love and friendship and adoration and respect for each other's and each other's families and what we're up to. And so it's just awesome.
I used that word this morning when Krista and I were talking about you. I go, it's cool that I adore her, right? She goes, 100%, because I said I adore her. We were just talking about it at breakfast this morning. So 100%, they do. They just gonna let us go. And they got a lot of similarities too, personality and temperament wise.
Very deep caretakers.
Yeah, that make our lives possible. So you're exactly right.
Completely. All right, Ed, I love you.
I love you.
I don't even have one more.
That's good.
I just want one more time with you and one more time with you. And every time I get to see you, it's just such a blessing.
I love our time. Thank you for today.
And you're going to kill it in Arizona.
Let's go.
Go. Go.
Thanks, you guys. See ya.
Love you.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you. So make sure you subscribe. Mwah.